So Metroid Prime 4 was probably one of my most anticipated games of 2025, and really it extends like beyond that. Like, no pun intended, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. But I've been looking forward to this game for a very, very long time. I don't think you understand like how long it's been since we've gotten a new Metroid Prime game. It's been 18 years. I specifically remember playing Metroid Prime 3 Corruption in my smoky apartment, in my early 20s. And to see like the Metroid franchise and stuff and never getting that Prime 4, it sucked. And this game had a rocky development cycle. It's alleged that Bandai Namco was originally working on it back in 2017, and then, it never came out, and then it was rebooted, started completely over by Retro Studios, who should have been the people making the game from the start, considering, Retro Studios made the other 3 games. Why would you give this to another company? Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird when you think about it. But now Metroid Prime 4 has finally come out. I picked up the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of the game. Yes, Spawnwave did buy me a physical edition of Metroid Prime 4 for the Nintendo Switch 2. It has not arrived yet. If it doesn't arrive in a couple of days, I will probably drive to his house and do some things that may get me some jail time. But has Metroid Prime 4 been worth the wait? We saw reviews. I talked about the reviews on the second channel, and I get it. It's just one person's opinion. Some people seem to think that this is the best Metroid game ever, and some people said, oh, it's too weird. They did too many different things and stuff, and, it's too much like original Metroid games. But as someone who's been playing these games for a very long time, I figured I need to share my 2 cents. I need to talk about this game and just be honest. Be honest with what I like. Be honest about what I dislike. Now, starting things off, I think the game starts off with a good first impression. It feels like a Metroid Prime game through and through. An interesting first environment that you are thrust in a war-torn area and stuff, and then we get to the traditional Metroid stuff. If you've never played a Metroid Prime game before, guess what? You lose all your abilities, just like in every Metroid game, and then you have to hunt throughout the game to find your abilities in order to unlock new areas and stuff like that. Now, that was traditional in the Legend of Zelda games until Breath of the Wild, but it seems like that's what they're sticking with Metroid games. Metroid Dread, same sort of situation. And does that rekindle some sort of nostalgia? Or does it feel a bit dated considering it's been the same mechanic? It depends on the person. I think if you build the game around that core principle and make it so that it is interesting and, you're in interesting locations and everything is, somewhat streamlined for the most part in getting your equipment so you can advance to other areas, I think it can be very well done. So after you lose your abilities, the first area of the game was like, wow, I'm digging this. This is great. Look at this lush environment, and it's all pretty and stuff. I did play the game on the 4K 60 mode. I didn't really mess around with performance mode because 60 is good enough for me. If it was a multiplayer thing, maybe I'd want to go with the 120 mode. But for 60 frames in a single player game, to get the 4K visuals when I'm playing on my television, that is A-okay with me. And the game does start out great. And then things happen. I'm not saying that they're the worst thing in the world, but you're introduced to the Miles guy, the Scott the Woz guy. And you start to see some core issues that the game has when it comes to kind of pacing and what they want you to do in certain time frames, because you quickly realize after you rescue this Miles character, he basically builds up a base in the first area. And within that base, you will be talking to him. He will call you on a radio communication. It's not too super intrusive, but if you kind of dilly-dally a little bit, he'll call you to let you know, hey, you should probably go do this, which is kind of annoying. But, you know, he doesn't really overstay his welcome too much in terms of having to defend him and stuff like that. But the character itself is very obnoxious. And then you start to figure out that pretty much every main point that you go to has a character that you need to rescue. Now, before we get into that, I do want to talk about the second area you go into, because this was the complete opposite of the first area. It was drab. It was kind of boring. The same sort of enemies, mechanical enemies over and over again. And I really did not like this second area at all, because it just felt very weird. It felt very hollow and shallow compared to the lush environment that I was just in. And then you start to realize your main goal. You have to get 5 main keys in order to unlock a thing, and this, that, or the other. I'm not really going to talk about the story. The story is, I don't know, it's fine, I guess. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it does rely a bit on these Federation forces, and all of these people that you end up meeting and subsequently have to end up spending time with, potentially defending them, and they do have their own life bar. None of them were really super interesting. And none of them were really well voice acted either. There's an obnoxious female character who, like, fangirls over Samus, and it's like, do you understand the brevity of the situation we are in right now? Like, even the semi-normal characters are still voice acted with really weird inflictions, and it definitely was something that took me out of the experience, because I don't need to have a AI controlled counterpart trying to quote unquote help me. If you want to make the game have moments where I will need assistance on something, why not just make the game, have a multiplayer mode in it? Make it so that 2 people can go throughout the game and play the game. But you get your traditional areas, your ice area, your fire area. You get your, different power-ups and stuff like that. You end up going underground, so on and so forth. I won't focus too much on the areas that you end up visiting, but some definitely are better than others, I feel. And then we start to get into the gameplay of the game, because that's kind of how the game is structured. And gameplay-wise, it feels a lot like previous Metroid Prime games, except now you have these psychic abilities. And, I mean, they're kind of a gimmick. Like, I'll just keep it real with you. Like, you could do things to level up the psychic abilities, but, like, I never really messed around with it, because you only have to use them at certain times, and it's like to move something, and, occasional enemies will require a psychic shot in order to take down a barrier or something like that. Like, it's fine. It's not the worst thing in the world, but the way they kind of hyped it up as, like, this brand new gameplay mechanic, like, it's really not. Like, it's just kind of something to differentiate it from the other Metroid Prime games, but I don't feel like it really is like something that, going forward, we need to have these psychic abilities. Like, it's fine for the game that they're in, but I don't think it really adds all that much to the overall gameplay, because you kind of use it few and far between. And then there's some interesting things with this game. I think I'm going to start off with the way you upgrade your weapons. So in previous Metroid games, when you find a new weapon in an area, you then can equip the weapon and you're good to go. You can use that weapon wherever you need to go, so on and so forth. But that's not the case in this game. You pick up a chip, an ice chip, a fire chip, a thunder chip, and then with that chip, from where you are, you have to go back to the main base where Miles and others will be waiting for you eventually as you save them throughout your adventure, in order for Miles to equip the chip onto Samus's gun. Now, in theory, that doesn't sound too bad. It's like, oh, okay, you just go back to the main base. You could probably use something to transport there or transport near there. Nope. There's no fast travel in this game. So when you go to a new location, you go to that new location with your Viola bike, Viola, whatever you want to say. And you're trudging through this desert with no music playing. And yes, I did hear that if you 100% scan everything in the game, you can get music when you're on the bike instead of having to use the amiibo. Who is going to do that? Who is going to 100% scan everything and then want to play through the game again instantaneously? Nobody. That's a stupid thing that it's still locked behind an amiibo, because 99% of people that are playing this game are not going to 100% scan everything, because half the stuff you'll end up missing and you won't even know it. But the bike is dumb. Like, it doesn't add anything to the game. The desert itself is boring. You know what it is? It's padding. It's filler in the game. And that's when I kind of started to realize that there's quite a bit of padding in this game. Having to find the chip and then take the chip, because it's not like the chip is like right at the start of the level or something. You'll have to go into levels that you have already beaten and played through in order to get the chip, and then you have to work your way back out of the level, and then you have to get on your bike and go back to the main base, and then when you go to the main base, then you can equip it. And then you have to go back out on your bike to go to another area. It's little things like that elongate the overall time that you're playing this game, and I don't think that's not a fun thing. That's not something that brings me joy to have to backtrack over and over again. Backtracking in and of itself can be very rewarding when it's for things like, you know, maybe a brand new pathway so you can get deeper into a level for something, or, an item upgrade like in previous Metroid games. But this doesn't feel like natural. It feels like it was added in to elongate the gameplay time, because the game itself, it's really not all that long. You know, it's a game you could beat in pretty much 2 days, and then you could be on to the next thing. Maybe you'll want to replay it again. Maybe you'll want to 100% scan everything. But I don't know. It's weird how that is. Now, I will say some good things about the game, though. I found most of the boss battles to be pretty fun, and I think the presentation of the game is very nice. Like, the game looks pretty damn good, especially considering that this is a Nintendo Switch 1 game at its core, really. I think the Switch 2 version looks and plays like really good. Like, it looks very nice. It's very clean for the most part. The frame rate, there's no issues with that or anything like that. There's some nice graphical effects. There's some nice kind of wow moments when you're looking over the scenery and stuff. It's definitely an attractive looking game, and something that I hope, Nintendo and Retro kind of learn going forward with this. But it's a mixed bag overall for me. It's something where I really wanted to love this game. I wanted to love this game. I wanted to see if I could, envision this game the way that the people that gave this game like a 10 out of 10 did. It's the best Metroid Prime ever. It's as good as Super Metroid. And it's like, I respect your opinion, but I think you're crazy. Like, there are moments that the game shines, but there are moments that definitely bog down the game so much. The weird hand-holding, adding in human characters, the bike stuff, and really, the gameplay itself feels exactly like Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3. And like 18 years ago, that was fine. That was cool. That's what we expected. But that was 18 years ago. When the power-ups are pretty much identical, you just call them psychic now. It's a psychic spider ball. It's not just a normal spider ball. But when you're getting the same sort of things, the grappling hook, the spider ball, and it just feels like a game that should have came out like a decade ago. It feels a little bit outdated. It feels a little bit like, we've done this formula so much, and the things that they added in don't make the game any better. So, I don't know. I know I sound kind of negative, but I think it's a good game. I think it's a good game. I don't think it's a great game. There are way too many issues, way too many quirks that I have with it that bring it down from something great to a more good area. There are times where I'm like, yes, I'm having a lot of fun. And then there are times where I'm like, who decided this? Who thought this was a good idea? But really, it boils down to, like, Metroid needs to get, like, a refresh. Like, think about it from this perspective. This is going to be a lot of people's first Metroid game, or really their second Metroid game. They played Dread, because Dread was the best-selling Metroid game of all time. And, like, to play it so safe in so many aspects, and then the aspects that you took a little bit of a risk in, like adding in the human characters and adding in the bike stuff, aren't satisfying at all. It's like, was this the best decision? This should have been the biggest and best Metroid game ever. You know, multiplayer aspects to it. You know, a new feeling, a new flavor to it, but still feeling familiar. But it just feels like a familiar game from 18 years ago with additions that nobody asked for, nobody really wanted. And the most important thing is, I don't think it makes the game any better. But that's just my opinion, you know? Maybe in a year or two I'll feel differently about it, but yeah, you know, it's good. It's good, but it should have been much more, especially considering how long people have been waiting for this game. I think it should have been much, much more. But let me know in the comments section down below, have you picked up this game? If not, what do you think about it? What do you think about the footage that I showed? What do you think about what I had to say about it? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to share it around with your friends and family and enemies, because a hate view is still a view. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I've played a lot of games this week, but I've enjoyed it, man. It's been a super busy week, but I've definitely enjoyed it. I was hoping Metroid Prime 4 was going to be in my Game of the Year contender, and I was going to be able to yell at Keeley for, you know, ending the nominations too soon. But nope, that ain't happening. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.